bunch of chemistry. Some of them are less of a climb just in terms of the number of courses. And because there are elective opportunities in almost every major, you can use your electives to fulfill the requirements for a second major, not a second degree.
Other questions of Dr. Toll before we move on to the discussion of the members? Let me suggest that well, let me ask the question. How would you like to proceed in terms of next steps? I mean, we obviously can look at the 5-year summary, and you can see some programs that have fallen well below the 30-20-10 standard. Would you like, or would it be your desire for us to look at those and gather additional data first? Would you like to start with A and go to Z in all of these programs, or what would be, let me just get ask the benefit of your all's thoughts. And let me ask one other question in preparation for that, and that is, if we ask for a deeper data dive on, for example, just take a journalism, which has 8 degrees in 5 years, what additional data would you be able to provide to us that you would think would be relevant to our evaluation of whether there's a need to suspend or discontinue that program?
Well, the sorts of things that we can provide, first of all, is when the program began. That's actually a fairly new program, and so it is in a building phase. We can provide, to the degree that the data are available from state government and quasi-governmental agencies, we can provide some employment data, we can provide some salary data, we can provide some national data in terms of what kind of occupations people with particular degrees go into. And as was mentioned this morning, in what I thought was a very, very good conversation about strategic planning, it came up that just because a person gets a degree in English doesn't necessarily mean that they are not necessarily going into the business world. Just as another anecdote, and I'll just mention anthropology because it was mentioned. That is an area that right now the State Department is hiring anthropologists because of homeland security issues and understanding cultures from around the world where we're unfortunately seemingly always fighting wars in other lands and trying to understand what the demographics and what the cultural history of that particular region of the earth is.
Thanks. Sure, good. Yeah, I think one thing that has been resonating to me, having the privilege, or however you want to see it, of sitting on all of these 3 ad hoc teams, is the great service. Go back to Susan, when I became president of the Senate, she goes, it'll be a bonus. And I'm like, I've gotten my bonuses, but it's an honor to serve all of you. But one piece that we talked a little bit this morning on the strategic planning piece is, when this committee was first formalized, from the stress test last year, that was the only thing that was affecting coming down from the Board of Governors. And then we moved forward. We had a strategic planning workshop in last January, or it was now a year later in January, and then we created another ad hoc team out of it. And I think we're doing a good job, if you will, in terms of reviewing these programs. We're able to do the phase 1 piece very well. But once again, we're getting ahead of ourselves in certain areas of things. We're trying to really we had a great discussion this morning in terms of mission, vision, and pieces. One of our discussion points was, how do we get to 2025? And so, is there some programming on here that is needed to get to those 2025 goals? I'm not saying we should stop this committee by no means, but I think when we're putting anything into context, we've got to be thinking about the works of the Senate committee. And Trustee Grady chairing that committee, put that in some of our thinking points. And I think it's important for this committee, and Trustee Smith said that this morning as well, I think for this committee, that's very crucial as we move forward, so that we're not working in isolation, if you will, in these individual committees, but to how does this work supporting that one, and how that one's supporting this one.
I do recall Trustee Smith commenting on that earlier, that maybe this review should precede the strategic planning review, and I thought that was great. Trustee Wells, and then Trustee Fraser.
it takes to build each one of these programs. So if you have a new program, then I can assume that 0 would mean that you had nobody in. So if you were just to pick journalism again, 9 and 10, you didn't have anybody, 10, 11. So it's like the first year we could have anybody in the program was 11, 12. And if so, how long should a program, in your mind, have to develop to get to the numbers in that 30, 20, 10?
That's an excellent question. It really depends on the program and how closely it is related to other programs. So biochemistry, again, I referred to as the newest program. I would think in 3 to 4 years we would see the results, because we already have biology, we already have chemistry, we already have physics, not as a major, but we certainly have the coursework. And so students are going to be drawn into that area. In fact, student demand is something that pushes them. Something like journalism is certainly benefits from other of the majors and the coursework that we provide. That may be a 5 or 6 year period as the strength of the program develops, as additional faculty are hired that bring in a very strong journalism background specifically, rather than perhaps as a subset of a broader set of strengths they have. But the 3 to 6 year period generally gives you an idea of how things are working, and it could be a little shorter, it could be a little longer on the ends of that clock. Great question. Trustee Priest?
Yeah, Chair Goodwin. While I agree with everything you stated as to how we got here and why, I want to back up a year before that and remind everybody of, in my opinion, why we're here. I delivered a message to the president and the staff at my briefing in April 2 years ago that the governor was looking to find a university that would take a look at degree programs and maybe be a leader in the direction that higher education is going in, and asked this university to come up with eliminating some programs. We did not do that, and we got a $7.6 million veto 2 months later. We got our $7 million for the iHub last year only because in April, we, through the president's statement and a motion from us, agreed to do this review and come up with those programs for elimination. Now, the first step was we eliminated stuff that we weren't using. We kind of cleaned off the shelf. But there's an expectation out there that we need to take a look at these non-performing or low-performing degree programs and offer them up, get rid of them if we're going to receive funding. Now, we can spend all the money we want on lobbyists and legislature and get funding, but it's not going to show up here. And I'm not the only one sitting at this table that's had that explained to them. If we don't participate in that leadership role of changing some things that are going on in higher education. So from my perspective, we need to act fairly quickly on some programs on this page that we're offering up for discontinuing. Now, that's not discontinuing today because it's a 4-year process. Nothing happens quickly. The folks that are enrolled, or the folks that enrolled here when that was in the book, we're going to support that. But I just caution all of us that we may be in fact trying to talk about 2 different things here, but reality is the middle of May is black pin time, and I think we need to be attentive.
Thank you, Trustee Priest. Candidly, I think that's why we're here. I mean, that's why we have this data in front of us, and I'm just suggesting that what Dr. Toll and his staff need from us is direction, and further direction as to what additional data would you like and on what program. And if you would like additional data that deeper dive on all of these, I think it's unreasonable to assume that can be done between now and the 1st of May. If you want a deeper dive on a half a dozen or 12 or 15 or whichever ones that fall below the 30, 20, 10, then I think that can be done. And I would hope that this subcommittee could meet again between our April meeting and our May meeting to give the board direction and to move forward on doing just that. If there are degree programs that we would like, that we believe are suitable for being terminated.
I'm not sure what additional data I would need to change my mind, because in my mind, I would offer up anthropology, philosophy, and sociology, which are the three low and underperforming programs that have been here long enough for us to have the data on. I would offer those up today, and I'm not sure what data could change my mind on that. Anthropology,
Psychology
no,
and sociology.
no, philosophy
Philosophy and
and sociology.
Okay, that's, again, we have an opportunity before this meeting is over for the public to comment on that.
Okay, absolutely.
And for the faculty and for the students and for those others who may be impacted by or have a special place in their hearts or curriculum for those particular programs. But that's, are there others, and we can